Tanzania's great founding father and president and avid Pan-Africanist Julius Nyerere one day in 1960 stood up and with great emphasis he declared, "There is no doubt at all about the boundary. We know that not a drop of water of the Lake Nyasa belongs to Tanganyika." With those words, the dispute between Malawi and Tanzania border would come to an end, so we thought. But what led to this great leader to utter this important and momentous statement to the people of these two countries at the height of nationalism and fight for independence for the then Nyasaland and Tanganyika, today Malawi and Tanzania? In the heart of East Africa lies Lake Malawi, a breathtaking freshwater lake known for its crystal clear waters and a diverse aquatic life. However, beneath its serene surface lies a complex and long-standing territorial dispute between Malawi and Tanzania. This contentious issue has roots that extend back for decades, involving historical claims, political maneuvers, and the intricate geopolitics of the region. The lake, also known as Lake Nyasa, stretches over 560 kilometers in length and is one of the great Rift Valley lakes. Its shores kiss the countries of Malawi, Tanzania, and Mozambique, but it is the northern part of the lake that has become a focal point of disagreement. The lake, known as Lake Malawi in Malawi or Lake Nyasa in Tanzania, dominates the eastern border of Malawi. It is the third largest lake in Africa at 568 kilometers long and sometimes stretches to a width of 80 kilometers. The lake constitutes about a third of the entire territory of Malawi. Malawi's economic life, culture, folklore, and national sentiments are indistinguishably linked to the lake. Tanzania too derives considerable value from the lake. It has navigation and fishing rights. The lake supports a large number of artisanal fishermen and their ancestral burials, places that now lie under the water. To comprehend the Lake Malawi dispute, one must delve into the historical context that shaped the conflicting claims. Initially, Tanzania was a German colony. However, following defeat of the Germans in World War I, Tanzania became a British colony. It is around this time that a treaty signed in 1890 called the Heligoland-Zanzibar Treaty between Great Britain and Imperial Germany would be the bone of contention. The British and the Germans agreed that the boundary between the then British colony of the Nyasaland or Malawi, the German East Africa or Tanzania, should sit at the boundary along the Tanganyika side of the lake shore. Therefore, this meant that the whole of the lake became part of Nyasaland or Malawi. It is important to note that the boundaries in the colonial era never considered reason or rhyme of the local populace. Therefore, people living around the northern shores of the lake are very much related. They speak the same language, they have the same culture, and share the same beliefs. Eventually, the British and other colonial masters would leave Africa after a wave of nationalism. After independence of both Malawi and Tanzania, brief arguments between the two countries would resurface in 1967 to 1968 with no clear outcome. Malawi's view was that the boundary follows the lake shoreline in accordance with that 1890 Heligoland Treaty. Tanzania sought a recourse to the international legal rule that boundaries at lakes are divided at the median line. Thus, Tanzania argued that it should own half the lake. Tanzania also made arguments on the basis of its fishing economy, historical claims, and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. We must remember that President Julius Nyerere was not interested in claiming Lake Malawi and he made that clear in 1960. Well then, did he change his mind a few years later? The answer is maybe not exactly, but he might have done it out of spite. You see, Dr. Banda, the then president heading the one-party state of Malawi, was not seeing eye to eye with President Nyerere. For complex political reasons, Dr. Banda was very much pro-Western and collaborated with the apartheid regimes of South Africa, the Western regimes in Zimbabwe, and colonial Portuguese. Dr. Banda then in turn accused Tanzania of harboring dissidents running away from Kamuzu Banda's dictatorship. President Nyerere was not obviously impressed with Dr. Banda's pro-Western stance. Hence, President Nyerere might have said, okay, then you are a landlocked country and we will take part of your land as well because you are being an African. However, Tanzania's challenge to the treaty was not actively pursued as government policy, and it effectively lapsed, as it appeared that neither the Malawians nor the Tanzanians were interested in the argument. Instead, in line with the Cairo Declaration, Tanzania recognized the general continuing validity of African borders as they had been at independence. So you see, Malawi is a landlocked nation and it depends on its neighbors for connections to the sea. Malawi is connected to international markets through 4 key ports: Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, Beira, Nakara in Mozambique, and Durban in South Africa. You know, there's been trouble in Mozambique. South Africa is a bit too far. So Dar es Salaam has become a lifeline for Malawi, and Dar es Salaam the port of choice. Malawi cannot afford to have bad relations with Tanzania. Therefore, Malawi has avoided any trouble on this front. And then life went on. Tanzanians and Malawi continued to cross the border, selling and buying products. That remained like that through most of the century and pretty much forgotten, maybe, to a certain extent. However, the dispute would erupt again at the turn of the 21st century in a major way. Why? The border issue resurfaced in the 21st century because of strong indications that fossil fuels or hydrocarbons might lie under the lake. The discovery of oil on Lake Malawi brought back border disputes between Malawi and Tanzania. So Tanzania, under President Jakaya Kikwete, said, well, forget Julius Nyerere's stance on the matter. Tanzania now claimed ownership of half of the northern part of the lake, arguing that the border is supposed to run through the middle of the lake. Tanzania's argument, as usual, was that international laws supported sharing common borders of water by bordering nations. Malawi, as we said before, still goes by the 1890 treaty between the Germans and the British, which puts the border at the shores of the lake. Now, in October 2011, the then Malawi president, late Bingu Mutharika, awarded a UK company a contract to start oil and gas exploration in the eastern part of the lake, a company called Shore Stream Oils. The contract included exploration within the Tanzanian claimed area. In response, in 2012, Tanzania published a new map indicating that half of the lake is Tanzania's. 2013 was perhaps the worst of the dispute. Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete said, "Anyone who tries to provoke our country will face consequences. Our country is safe and the army is strong and ready to defend our country," said Kikwete in a speech to mark the country's National Heroes celebrations. He then continued, "We will not allow anyone to mess with our country or try to take away our territory. We will deal with them as we dealt with Idi Amin." He was making a reference to the Tanzanian army which helped topple Idi Amin of Uganda in 1979 after Idi Amin had invaded part of Tanzania's territory. Kikwete's remarks came after his Malawian counterpart, President Joyce Banda, who had taken over from President Bingu Mutharika after he had died of cardiac arrest. President Joyce Banda told mediators that her government would not accept an interim deal on the disputed boundary with Tanzania until the wrangle over sovereignty is settled. President Joyce Banda at the time also said that her government would not entertain any interim agreement on Tanzanian usage of the lake until the whole issue was resolved. So tension arose. Tanzania, in turn, repeatedly reassured their citizens to continue using the lake without any fear. But as good neighbors do, following the argument, the two parties sat down and thought, nah, we don't have to fight. You know what? It's not worth it. Let us go to our dispute mediation. Then they went to the Southern African Development Community, SADC, and SADC appointed former Mozambican President Joaquim Chissano as chief mediator alongside former South African and Botswana presidents Thabo Mbeki and Festus Mogae. In 2017, the mediators gave the disputants 3 months to come to a final resolution after both countries stuck to their positions. The team held its last negotiations, however, in July 2017. A meeting in 2018 was cancelled at the last minute, but then the dispute lost agency. No one cared anymore. The Malawi and Tanzanian presidents meeting together said the two countries' relationship was cordial. New Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera at that time said the dispute was a non-issue, although greater energy resources would be helpful for Malawi if its good relations with Tanzania were to be destroyed as a result. The costs might well outweigh the benefits. Malawi's exploration of Lake Malawi was discontinued, and the current government shows no interest in reviving that mission whatsoever. In recent years, Malawi has worked on diversifying its oil supply routes via Mozambique. Tanzania has been quiet. A president of Tanzania, Madam Suluhu Hassan, has since visited Malawi a few times and feels so very much welcome there. It's her second home, she said. Tanzania government has assisted Malawi massively when Tropical Freddy hit Malawi last year in 2023. The president of Malawi has also made a few visits to Tanzania, and for the moment, it seems that all is quiet on the Lake Malawi front. Neither side are interested in arguments. However, the elephant in the room remains. If history is anything to go by, the argument at some point will resurface. Unfortunately, this is a quintessential African argument on borders, which plagues the continent today. I'll see you in my next video, and please leave your comments below. Peace.